Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday and welcome to Winners and Whiners Radio. I am your host, Scott Steen. I am the lead handicapper at WinnersandWhiners.com. And I couldn't do it myself. I'm bringing in my co-host, the one, the only. He is senior handicapper at WinnersandWhiners.com. It is Mr. Scott Reichel. Scott, how are you? Happy Tuesday.
Doing pretty well. I can say that I had a couple of bad beats last night, but as a whole, yeah, keep on keeping on.
I know you took a live play on the Houston Astros, and they teased you. They were down. You had them plus 1.5. They tied the game, then gave up 5 runs in the top of the ninth to the Baltimore Orioles before teasing you, coming back, loading the bases, having Jose Altuve hit one right on the screws, and at the end of the day, you came up a run short.
The sac fly, and then Brantley popped up. They scored 3 runs in response,
Yep.
So they lost by exactly 2. Not fun.
Not fun at all. You know who else didn't have any fun tonight, Scott? It was the Montreal Canadiens and the Phoenix Suns. Had no fun at all. Of course, we will talk about that as the day goes on. Crazy day in soccer. Have you ever seen 2 crazier back-to-back games, Scott?
Back-to-back games, probably not. Now, I'm sure there's been a day in the World Cup or any type of event where you have multiple games on, arguably at the same time, where you can make an argument for a crazy back-to-back or something in the Premier League when you have all the teams playing at about the same time. When it comes to an international competition, it was one of the crazier consecutive matches I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it was nuts, and we'll get to those. And you know what? We got a lot of stuff to get to, so let's get it started, Scott. We'll start the show as we always do. Talk about the people that kind of took it in the shorts a little bit. Scott, it didn't go well for him. Started off well, looked good, but in the end, the book ended up as the victor, and you ended up holding a ticket that is good for nothing except starting small fires. It is time for Call the Cops. All right, Scott, we're going to start it off, as we always do, from the world of tennis. No, I'm kidding. It is tennis, and we do make an occasional foray into the world of tennis. And Scott, this is one of the worst beats you're going to see, and it requires a little bit of explanation. So this is Andy Murray, and somebody's first name who probably I can't pronounce. Bezolashvili is his last name. I don't know what's his first name. Scott, do you know?
I'm impressed you got Basilashvili right. So props to you on that one. But to pronounce the actual first name, it is Nicholas.
Nicholas. Oh, see, I could have gone with that. So NB playing Andy Murray under 38 games, Scott. So considering tennis game is set as one when one player gets to 6, except for tiebreakers, obviously. But anyway, so you want the whole match to last less than 38 games. So Murray won the first 2 sets in great shape, took just 19 games to do it. And Scotty's up 5-0 in the 3rd set. All he needs is one more game to shut it out, and you cash an easy winner on your under 38 ticket. However, Murray went on to lose the next 7 games. He lost the set 7-5. Of course, then he went out in the 4th set, acted like nothing happened. I'm back in control. I'm back dominating again. He won the 4th set 6-3. It put him on 40 games. And if you were one of those people that like to bet tennis, you had a fantastic bet right up until the time Murray decided he wanted to take a break in the 3rd set. You had under 38, and Murray Bezolashvili, you can call the cops.
He got broken in 3 straight service games while trying to serve out the match. Andy had 2 match points when returning, and he lost everything. And then he ended up rallying in the 4th to win. But that's an all-timer. You're up 5-0, and your guy already won the first 2 sets.
The only surprise there is I didn't have it.
You think the other guy would have just thrown in the towel at that point. You're down 2 sets, down 5-0. Props to him for fighting.
Yeah.
You just assumed he'd go home at that point.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, but that's one of the worst beats I've seen all year. That's pretty bad.
Absolute brutality.
But we talked about the soccer games before. We teased it, and now it's time to talk about why both of them are going to be on Call the Cops. First one's going to be Spain, either on the money line or -1, taking on Croatia. Now, this does involve a little bit of context. They led 3-1 in the 84th minute. Croatia then scored 2 goals to tie the game. So including one in, I believe, the 92nd minute. So in stoppage time, they ended up scoring. Game went to extra time for 30 extra minutes. Spain ended up winning 5-3 after the extra 30 minutes. So Spain rallied the troops and ended up winning the match. However, if you ended up having Spain -1, you lost your bet even though they won the match by 2. And that's because a lot of people might not know this, but if you bet on soccer, everything is priced as a 90-minute line. So if you had Spain -1, they were tied after 90 minutes. So you lost, but Spain won by more than 1 goal. So that's a pretty bad beat because you ended up picking Spain to basically win by 2. They won by 2, but you still lost.
And I bet there's a fair amount of people that are kind of new to soccer betting. They're going, "Oh, we're coming down to the knockout round here. I know Spain's really good. I'm gonna take make my first soccer play ever. I'm gonna take Spain -1." And then they go, "Well, I hope Spain does well here in extra time." And of course, well, not really extra time, the overtime, but that was not included. So they might not have found that out until they got back to the window and had their helpful ticket taker let them know that they no longer had a winner. So it was
how many hundreds of people do you think called up the help desk for a sports book and complained that they got graded as a loss for Spain?
A lot of Googling, a lot of forums, a lot of sports betting forums, a lot of Googling, a lot of calls made to books. Absolutely. I don't doubt that one bit. So yeah, and you got to call the Euro cops there with the dee doo dee doo dee, not the siren that we have. So speaking of calling the Euro cops, Scott, let's talk about the other soccer game that went on. If you had France to advance, well, number one, you speak in rhyme, so congratulations. But it was a pretty substantial bet, as it was -320 for France to get past the Swiss. Scott, the Swiss led 1-0 for all the first half, but second half kind of belonged to France there, especially the middle part, as they put up 3 goals in a hurry. Scott, I don't know how long that was between goals. I'm guessing somewhere around 10, 12 minutes of game time. Do you have that in front of you?
I'm checking that right now. It felt like it was in 5 minutes because
Yeah.
I remember I was watching it, I had the volume off, and I was looking down every now and then on my phone, and I looked back up and France scored again.
Yep.
And I wasn't really sure what happened, but looking at the actual time here, Switzerland was up 1-0. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up right now. A lot of penalty kicks to go through. I actually trying to find it, but the penalty kicks are kind of up. So I know you can just talk.
And I will talk about that penalty kick, because from the time that France actually stopped that penalty kick, that's what seemed to light a fire under them, where they were still down 1-0, but you knew that perhaps the tide had turned, and that's when they put up 3 quick goals. However, never say die, the Swiss, Scott. They did not throw in the towel. It was a big day for teams and guys that should have been beat, not throwing in the towel. Switzerland scored 2 goals to tie the game, including one in the 90th minute. Nobody scored for the next 30 minutes, the 2 15-minute periods of overtime. It then went to penalty kicks. The Swiss, with fine precision, Scott, they made every penalty kick. It came down to France, who had also made all 4 of their penalty kicks. They kicked last, and they were able to get it. The Swiss were able to get it stopped. They did not score. They went on penalty kicks 5-4, and the Swiss moves on. The Swiss move on. So if you had France to advance, it's no time to dance. -320. It's time for you to call the cops.
So I actually just pulled it up. Swiss was up 1-0 in the 53rd minute.
Okay.
They got a penalty kick.
Yep.
France's goalie stopped the penalty kick.
Yep.
Then they scored 2 goals in the next 4 minutes.
Yep.
So France was up 2-1, and they scored again in the 75th. So you had 3 goals in about 18 minutes.
Okay.
For France.
All right. So the third one took a little longer than the first 2, because I knew the first 2 were almost back to back.
Yep.
Pretty intense. All right, Scott. So there's some bad news. Now let's talk about a little good news, shall we? These are the people that had that winning ticket, and they knew it all the way through. Never wavered. No shenanigans. When people thought they were beat, and they gave up. They waved the towel. They threw in the towel. They just absolutely said no more. It is time for those nice, easy wins, Scott. It's time for the rocking chair.
So the first rocking chair we're going to look at was in the only basketball game on between the Clippers and the Suns. And if you had the underdog with the Clippers plus 6.5, you were in pretty good shape, or even the money line. They never trailed by more than 1 point in the entire game. They led for the final 20 minutes of the game, and the Clippers won outright by 14. So the Suns, if you were laying a decent number there, looked good on paper, but once the game started, the Clippers took over.
Very nice. Yeah, it was a game where the Suns just never could catch fire. And well, we're gonna talk about that game more in depth here in a little while, but it was certainly interesting the way it played out with the injuries and everything. So taking a look at our second game here, it's my Kansas City Royals and the Boston Red Sox over 10.5 there at Fenway Park. And that was a pretty fair bet because they scored 10 runs in the first 4 innings of the game. All you need is 1 run in the next 5, and they did that easily as the Red Sox scored the 11th run in the 6th inning. And Scott, it was a good thing because they were this close to being on Call of the Cops because that's all the runs they had. So if you had over 10.5, you had a half-point winner. But the key word being there, winner. Congratulations.
And the last one was in the college baseball realm, as you had the game 1 of the College World Series. It's actually the championship game. So it's the College World Series, but it's actually the World Series this time. So you actually are moving quite along with the college baseball season. But if you had the Mississippi State and the Vanderbilt over 7.5, you were in good shape. Leiter was on the mound for Vanderbilt, so you knew he'd pitch well. But he surprisingly gave up a home run in the first inning. So you're thinking, all right, 1 run, we're on pace, not too shabby. And then Vanderbilt came up, and the pace went out the window because Vanderbilt helped you cash the bet in about 10 minutes because Vanderbilt scored 7 runs of their own in the first inning. So if you're doing the math at home, that's 8 runs in the first inning for a total of 7.5. Game landed at 10. So if you ended up having the over 7.5 in game 1 of the College World Series, you had a pretty nice, easy win there.
That'll do, Pig. That'll do. All right, very good. So, Scott, a lot going on in the various sports. But let's talk about His Highness, the King of Wisconsin, Scott. Aaron Rodgers hasn't reported to off-season training, his OTAs. Going to get fined. Haven't said whether the Packers are going to waive that fine or not, so it's possible that he may not get fined. But, Scott, there's a loophole. There's a loophole thanks to COVID-19, just like the players could do last year. The players can opt out this season. I think they get $100,000, but they don't. They get a year's service time, and all of their contract just rolls to the next year as long as they sign their contract before October 1st, 2020, which Rodgers did. So, Scott, if he would decide to do that, if Rodgers would decide, you know what, I'm really not playing for the Packers again, guys, he can take the COVID opt-out. He will still get his yearly payment of $11.5 million as part of his prorated signing bonus, and he will still get to keep his $6.8 million roster bonus that was due or that was paid in March. Now, if he holds out of training camp once that gets rolling, he actually runs the risk of forfeiting that $18.3 million. What do you think? How serious is he? Does he take this out?
I feel bad for Rodgers. How's he going to live without $18 million? What has he made? Like 200-something million in his career, if not more with endorsements?
He's done okay, yeah.
I'm assuming State Farm can cut a pretty nice check.
I bet that contract's at least $20,000.
I got to assume it is.
With him and Mahomes, the best quarterbacks of this century, probably. Sorry, Brady.
Maybe per second he's on air in those commercials, 20,000.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
But as a whole, the question that I'm kind of wondering now, which is the fact that, am I surprised Rodgers is holding out? No, because it was extremely upset during the offseason, and the Packers didn't really do anything to address his concerns because they didn't draft a wide receiver in the first round, and he complained about the GM, and he's still there. So they didn't really listen to anything he had to say for the last couple of months. The question that I have for you is, if you're the Packers and you want to try to incentivize Rodgers to return, what are his demands again? Is he still demanding the same thing about the GM being fired? Because I kind of lost track of why exactly he's holding out.
Has he made that an official demand?
I thought he did earlier, but I don't recall exactly what he's most upset about, if that makes sense.
Or is it just the passive aggressive Aaron Rodgers thing? Like, well, I don't really like the GM. It'd be nice. It'd be a shame if something happened to him on the way home, like somebody cut his brake lines. I don't know what he wants. I'm with you. I guess he feels disrespected. He's not happy with management, although by all accounts he gets along with LaFleur. So they kind of got off to a rough start, but they seem to be okay now. So yeah, I would if I'm the Packers, I'm like, what do you want? You know, he obviously doesn't want any more money. I mean, you know, we all take more money, but it's not about money. Is it about that catch-all, Scott? Is it about respect?
I think it's got to be about the fact that he feels like Green Bay's front office doesn't treat him like, I'd say, he is the true franchise player. And, of course, he is. But I think the argument you're making is that besides paying him a huge contract, Green Bay could have probably done more to help him over the last couple of years. I think we'd agree that Rodgers probably should have more than one title right about now based on his talent. And he's just had enough about it. But I do kind of question what holding out during an offseason hopes to change. Besides, of course, the Packers shipping you off to either a team that has a bunch of draft picks or halfway to Siberia. I don't really know what you hope to accomplish.
Well, that's the thing. When you decide to opt out, I guess that's the move that you make, that you've demanded a trade, basically.
But that's the point, though. I get that he's been injured in his career, and of course he's played through it as a pretty tough guy. But I'm just confused on what exactly you, I'd say, hope to achieve by holding out, besides Green Bay potentially trading you. But like, let's just say that
that's what you're looking to achieve.
I'm saying, let's say Green Bay trades him to Denver.
Okay.
They trade him to, let's say, Houston, for example. Is that really an upgrade? Are you going to be a lot happier at Houston as opposed to Green Bay?
I'm sure. Doesn't he have a no trade? I mean, doesn't he have a no trade clause?
I'm assuming if he's holding out, he'd have to waive it. But you get my point. My point is that I understand you're upset about how Green Bay has treated you and how you feel like they should have done more. You've also made the NFC title game a handful of times in your career. There's a lot of teams like the Cowboys, for example, who have dreams of making it to the NFC title game within the last 2 decades, 3 decades.
Right.
There are a lot worse situations you can be in than winning the NFC North every single year when you step on the field. I think you'd agree with that. I don't think Green Bay's that dysfunctional. Now, they could have done more, and I'm sure Rodgers' talent masks some of the issues that you have. But I just don't understand what exactly he hopes to accomplish besides expressing to the public, this front office hasn't done enough to support me.
Well, we're gonna find out Friday, because the weird thing is you can opt back in. So if he opts out and they go, well, I guess he's not going to play for us, so we trade him. They trade him to Denver. He's like, oh, I'm back in.
I don't really know how that works. But
it seems like a weird loophole to me. But we'll see what happens. We'll find out by Friday if he's serious or not. What's your prediction? Does he opt out, or does he take his chances with Green Bay?
I think it's really 50-50. I got no idea, because we talked about the money he might forfeit, about the $18 million.
Right.
I was joking, but we were both joking before. He doesn't really care about the $18 million. I'm sure.
Oh, I think he does.
I'm sure he's done quite well for himself.
Yeah, nobody wants to lose $18 million. Sorry. That's a deal.
I don't know. I think Rodgers can handle it. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, we shall see. So we talked a little bit about it, Scott, as far as the Euro goes, Switzerland pulling off the upset against France. Went to penalty kicks. I am really torn about penalty kicks, because it seems a shame after 120 minutes of first-class soccer with the teams running up and down the field, giving it their best shot, that the game is decided by one shot from, I don't know how far that is. How far is it, Scott? 22 feet or so?
I want to say it's around there, maybe a little bit less, but the point is that you don't want it decided by one player against a goalie from a fixed position.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you don't decide extra inning games by home run derby, unless you're playing for the Savannah Bananas. Then it's.
I'm trying to remember what was that league that decided to do it.
It was the one team. It was the Southern League. It's short.
Wasn't it like the Pioneers or something?
No, it's the Savannah Bananas.
No, but we talked about a league that was trying to implement that a couple of months ago.
A whole league?
Yeah, I forgot what the actual league was, but
what were they trying to? They weren't trying to do what Savannah's doing, which is the pitcher against the batter, and if he strikes out, the game's over. If he gets a hit, the pitcher has to run and get the ball and make.
I was right. It was the Pioneer League. They announced in April.
What do they want to do?
That the Pioneer League wants to implement a home run derby instead of.
Oh, that's right.
For the 2021 season.
We did talk about that. Did they do it?
Oh yeah, they're doing it for 2021.
So they're not having extra innings. They're having a home run derby this year.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
That's for the playoffs. That's for the regular season, though, not the playoffs.
No, because that'd be silly.
But the point is that that's the issue I have with the Euro stuff, because hockey does shootouts, but that's only for regular season, because they decide, you know what, you get a point for losing anyway. Might as well try to see who wins the game. We'll do a shootout. But once the Stanley Cup playoffs come around, you better believe there's no shootouts.
No, there's no 3-on-3. There's no,
and that's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs great. I'm sure that people would still like the Stanley Cup playoffs, but if you're in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and all of a sudden it comes down to, can my guy score it past the goalie in a shootout, then I feel like a lot of people would feel that winning in that environment isn't exactly, I'd say, I wouldn't properly indicate which of the two teams is better. And I think that's kind of the thing you're trying to avoid. You're trying to keep it competitive by having the better team win in a fair way. And I just feel like shootouts don't exactly do that, because it's not even about just a goalie making a lucky save, because we all know in soccer, you're just guessing. The goal is so big that you just have to guess if he's going right or left, and maybe you'll guess right, maybe you won't. But wouldn't you agree that shootouts have a tremendous amount of luck from the goalie perspective?
Oh, sure, absolutely. You've got to guess right. That's
it. You can be the worst player in the league, and you'll still score if the goalie guesses wrong. And
by the way, if you were the goalie guessing right in today's game, you were right most of the time, because that's where the majority of the shots went. But I'm really torn, Scott, because it sucks for all the reasons you just laid out. However, it is pretty darn exciting when we had a game like we had today, where one team, where they're battling back and forth, they both make all their shots. One team is leading 5-4 with the home team, or the team with the shooting last coming up, and it all comes down to that one shot. And then if they tie it there, then it goes to sudden death and shootout. I mean, it is super exciting, Scott, but it's still kind of gimmicky. I'm not saying it's like a home run derby. It's very similar. I'm not saying a home run derby wouldn't be fun to watch, but does it really give you a true indication of how those teams are and who was the better team that day? I don't think it does.
I think that the one problem you could say is that these players devote so much time for their country, just playing and trying to represent. They're not getting paid that much money to participate in this. It's mostly just for national glory and just to honor the country, as I said before. And it all comes down to whether or not that you can get it past a goalie and you just go back and forth like a knockout tour. Like, it's just, I am aware that playing 120 minutes is exhausting, and you're afraid of the whole game turning into basically Croatia in the extra time against Spain, where you put all the energy in, and then you come out for another 30 minutes and you're exhausted just saying 30 minutes and you can't really move. And at that point, you're just watching a completely just awful product, because nobody can actually move. They have no energy. But at some point, you got to realize that there's too much on the line for it to come down to a goalie guessing right on a direction the player's going to shoot.
I agree. Let them. I don't mind the 30 minutes. That's fine. But after that, let them play till it ends. I'm
fine with 30 minutes, or you could even do it indefinitely and just have first goal wins.
That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
I like the golden goal, so that's how I go about it.
And explain the golden goal for some of the people that may not be up on their soccer.
The golden goal just basically means first team to score in overtime wins.
Yeah. Sudden death to you and me.
Yep.
All right. So, big Olympic news, Scott. Well, it's still going on, apparently.
I'm trying to remember what the odds were on this team when we talked about it like a week and a half ago. I want to say it was like 2,000 or 5,000 or something.
On what?
On the team that we're about to talk about.
On Team USA?
No, Team Australia.
Team Australia?
Yeah, which is going to segue us into one player decided not to show up for the Olympics.
Oh, that's who Simmons was playing for Australia.
Yeah.
I forgot his Aussie background. Yeah, so Ben Simmons is not going to represent the Thunder from Down Under, Scott. I don't know what their actual nickname is. That's probably not it.
Whatever it is, they should replace it to that.
He's skipping the Olympics in order to work on his, what do they call it, his individual development.
I like to call it shooting, but that works too.
His individual development. Are you okay with that? Is that a good move, or should he be Should he be representing his country? Should he be playing for the pride, for the flag, for the what is the Australian flag? Oh, it's the Southern Cross. Yeah.
I think he should be playing the Olympics, but then again, some of it comes down to health. You have some players from Team USA who opted out because they're injured and they want to spend the off-season recovering. I'm fine with that. The issue I have is I don't really know how you can believe that doing drills by yourself are going to help you develop more than playing actual games. Maybe I'm just missing something, but I just feel like it's a good spot for him to represent his country. He'll get to compete against quality talent, and he's going to put himself on a spotlight. I think that's important, especially after he was awful and he got shamed by everybody for about a week straight, if not longer. Don't you think it might do him some good if he potentially leads Australia out of the group stage? If he goes for maybe a big game or two, that might just help his confidence, don't you think?
Oh, sure. Yeah. If he puts up 20 against Albania, there'll be no stopping Ben Simmons.
I think it might help a little bit, but I think that you can make the argument that just in general, it's a good experience to have for a younger player.
Scott, I'm the total opposite. I think he needs to lock himself in the gym. They need to chain the doors shut, and he can't leave until he shoots 1,000 jumpers a day from 15 feet and beyond. That's it. That's what he needs to do.
The thing is I actually don't think it's kind of a controversial take. I don't think that Ben Simmons' issue is shooting. I think his issue is that he has no confidence. I just think that he's one of those guys who realizes his limitations and they just consume him so much in big moments that he just freezes.
By the way, that's the exact opposite of me on the basketball court. I believe I can make it from anywhere, Scott. In reality, can't make it from any of those spots.
I'm a pretty good horse player, if I do say so myself. But I just think that's the issue with Ben Simmons, that you have a lot of players in the league who aren't great shooters, and yet they still are productive. Giannis isn't a great shooter, but he's a great athlete, and of course he can go to the rim. And the issue I have with Ben Simmons is the fact that I just feel like when it's a big game situation, people always talk about Paul George and how you can't trust him, but he's been great in the postseason. Ben Simmons is probably on a short list of max contract type players that you would go out of your way to avoid having on your roster in big moments.
Yeah.
This shrinks. So I don't actually think it's a shooting issue. I think the issue is that he just doesn't want the ball in his hands late in games, regardless of what shot he's getting.
Well, and see, I think he lacks confidence because he's not very good. That's my take.
I think that you're saying that offensively. I think defensively he's a good player, but
sure, that's exactly what you want in your point guard. That's the
he can pass and he can play defense, but he can't shoot free throws and he can't shoot jumpers.
Right.
But there are some players in the league that have still been successful despite being, I'd say, inept at shooting. And the problem that I have is that it wasn't even just the fact he couldn't shoot. He wasn't taking shots in the fourth quarter for much the entire Hawks series.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Scott.
Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. But I just think that it's a confidence thing with him. And you can talk about how the shooting definitely could be the main reason why he's not shooting. But am I wrong here? I feel like it's a hot take.
Yes.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes. You're wrong, but I understand where you're coming from.
So you just think it solely stems from shooting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I believe he does lack confidence, but I believe he lacks confidence for a reason.
I'm not saying they're independent of each other, but it's a problem when you are the point guard and they can't put you in the game for the final 2 minutes, and not even just not shooting. You're not even looking for your shot, and it's not even just jump shots. He's looking to pass it off when he has Trae Young on him for a dunk with 3 minutes to go. That has nothing to do with jump shooting. That's a pure mental roadblock. Wouldn't you agree with that?
It was something.
In that specific situation?
That's what it looked like.
So I'm looking at it more from a mental standpoint. I don't
know how going 4 for 19 against the Maldives in the opening round does you any good either.
I don't know. I think it's kind of like playing your little brother in a video game where you just beat him up and you feel better about yourself for a little bit. You hope that carries over for maybe a day or two.
Okay.
I think it all comes down to confidence with him.
Okay. Well, I think nothing builds up confidence like making 300 in a row.
I think beating Albania by 90 would make you feel pretty good, but we'll see.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. And, there was another Olympic moment, Scott. It was pre-Olympic, the qualifying, our hammer thrower turned her back on the national anthem. Scott, how do you feel about that?
How do I feel about the hammer thrower turning
Her.
her back? Sorry, I actually didn't know about the story until you brought it up.
Yep.
Turning her
I like,
back.
I like to blindside you about once a week. Just have no
That's
idea
fair.
what I'm going to say.
So the question that I have: would the people that get annoyed about kneeling feel worse about turning your back to the flag, or would they feel worse about the kneeling?
I think it's very similar.
I think it's similar too. I'm just curious if there's any distinction between the two.
I guess the bigger question is not necessarily how you feel about this in particular. How do you feel about the Olympics overall as a place to make a political statement? Is it the right venue or not?
I don't really get it, because if the whole point is you're representing your country by going, then how are you going to hate the country you're representing?
Well, and I think the argument would be you don't hate your country, you
hate aspects of it.
Aspects of the country, maybe.
I get it.
Okay.
I'm just saying that if the country's sending you there to represent and you decide, you know what, I'm going to help win you a gold medal, but I'm also going to make a statement. If the sole purpose of them sending you there is to win the gold medal, then I don't get how you're really sticking it to the country by doing what they wanted you to do in the actual competition. I understand you want to set a message and maybe you want to put a fist in the air, maybe you want to just go on a knee or something like that. But at the end of the day, you're going to be wearing the American flag pretty much everywhere you go. And I feel like turning your back on the anthem doesn't change the fact that you're wearing an American flag every single time you compete. So maybe I just don't see the full, I'd say, significance of it. Or maybe I just miss the boat on how impactful a move like that would be. But, you know, if she thinks it's going to do something, then good for her, I guess. But is it going to change anything? Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
What do you think?
You know, well, the United States Olympic Committee is okay with it. They kind of changed their position. Of course, the International Olympic Committee still says it shouldn't be done. So it'll be interesting to see when they actually get to Tokyo if that happens. You know, I get it, Scott. I'm of the opinion. Would I rather not see it? Yeah, I'd probably rather not see it. But I don't live their experience. I don't live people of color's experience. And when they make a statement about things that are wrong, I have no desire to try to invalidate that in any way, shape, or form. So
you can tell it bothered me a lot because I didn't even know what you were talking about when you brought it up.
there you go. All right.
Whatever.
All right. Fair enough. So you're not keeping up on the qualifying on the World Championships for the hammer throw?
Somehow I forgot to set the DVR for the hammer throwing. I really haven't kept track. I know that a lot of people see what I did there. That was a pun because they run track. But I know that I get updates on Twitter with some people that are qualifying. Maybe it's just me, but was qualifying ever this big of a deal for the general public? Because I see stuff all over the place talking about this person set a record, this person did something. I just wait for the competition. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know half of the runners before they go. And then I'll usually find out maybe a day before. Oh, there's this random 16-year-old from Jamaica who already broke all of Usain Bolt's records in the 200 meter or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's probably going to win. But in reality, does it really matter who qualifies when you usually can tell who's going to win the race because it's usually between 2 or 3 guys as a whole? I don't really care unless I'm related to one of the guys trying to qualify or one of the females trying to qualify.
I was like the extra runners, in the qualifying heats where they go through the 8 lanes and, you've got all your favorites and everybody. It's like a Seamus O'Grady from Scotland. And
you see the guy with the Fu Manchu mustache going on? That was all over Twitter.
Oh, no.
There's a photo of this guy who had a really, let's just say, eccentric facial hair look. And I don't want to say he turned into a meme, but I believe he came in 4th, so I'm pretty sure he did not qualify. But the one thing I'm always fascinated by is the people that are looking at the, let's just say, because you have to try to qualify, and you're just trying to see, the top 3 make it in a wave, top 4. And then one person, this person came in last. And you're like, God bless him for trying. You embarrassed yourself on a public stage, but, you tried. Good for you,
So was it a Louis C.K. bet about that? That
could be. I don't recall.
They train for their whole life, years and years and years. They go to the Olympics and finish last.
Yep.
So anyway, all right. So now I'm sure we'll have a lot more Olympics talk as it gets closer, because we'll start talking about the odds, because that's That's the fun thing, Scott. You can bet on the Olympics.
You definitely can. That's why I kind of didn't really follow the trial runs. As far as I know, I couldn't bet on it.
Right. Right. Yep. It's no curling.
Curling, you bet on the U.S. is like 150 to 1 and you win money.
Oh, love to bet on curling.
Andy Reid doppelganger guy was the captain of the team.
Yes, that's absolutely right. By the way, everybody, a quick reminder, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Winners and Whiners Radio, give us 60 minutes. We'll give you the winners. So let's talk, Scott. Let's talk a little sports. We'll talk, first of all, about hockey. We are down to just one series as Stanley Cup Finals got underway on Monday night. Tampa Bay reminded everybody that they are a pretty good hockey team, Scott. 5-1 over the Canadiens. Is that going to be kind of how the rest of this series goes? Is the Canadiens, are they done? Did they have their fun and now the big boys are going to win 2 straight, or do they have them right where they want them?
Writing off a team after one game is extremely stupid. In hockey, it's especially stupid. Just looking at the overall series, I thought it was going to be close. I believe we both had Tampa in, I want to say 6.
Yep.
That sound right?
Yes, it does.
So I think, am I shocked Tampa won the first game? No, because we both had them winning the series. Plus, I mentioned Armia, who had the COVID issues and they had no head coach. I'm pretty sure Armia ended up suiting up. But the point is that Montreal had a couple of distractions and some stuff going on with COVID that Tampa didn't have to worry about. But am I shocked that Tampa, with the best goalie in the league and the best offense in the league, dominated the entire game? No. But I'm not going to say that the series is over after a game. I think that's ridiculous.
Is it over, Scott?
Yeah, it's over. No, I don't think it's over.
Do you? Well, we both had Tampa Bay, like you said. So I don't know that this was.
I don't think Montreal's getting swept
any differently than we thought it was going to go.
I don't think Montreal's getting swept. So I think that it is going to get better for Montreal before it gets worse.
You think they get the next one?
It's a good question. I actually think Game 2 is going to go to overtime. That's my hot take.
Okay.
I think it's a lot closer in Game 2.
Well, we'll talk about that more, of course, tomorrow. But I can tell you that the early line right now is Tampa Bay minus 215. So if you wanted to take Montreal to even it up, you're going to get a pretty good prize.
Sounds about right, because they dominated Game 1 and they were already huge favorites before the series even started.
Yep, absolutely. So the other thing we had going on was we had what could have been the final game in the Western Conference Finals, and it was not, Scott, as LA Clippers decided that they didn't really want to go home yet. If they did, they wanted to go home and play some more basketball, and that's exactly what they're going to do, as they pretty much took care of business. You remember from our rocking chair segment, they got out to an early lead and never really was in any sort of doubt whatsoever. They performed extremely well as what ended up being a 7-point, or excuse me, about a 6.5 point favorite is about where that went off in most places. So, Scott, I know you've got a hot take on this game. You want to tell us what it is?
My hot take is I just think the Clippers are going to win the series.
Okay. I'm sorry for the series, not necessarily this game. Yes, you have a very hot take. You think the Clippers are going to reel off 3 straight? Yeah.
Now, I'm a little bit annoyed at myself because I liked the Clippers to actually win the series when they were down 3-1, and I believe that price was about 15 to 1. And I was going to bet it, and then unfortunately I took a nap and I woke up and the game started, so I couldn't bet it on it anymore. Now it went from 15 to 1 to plus 380. So, yeah, I missed a little bit of value on that. But I just look at this matchup and I say to myself, I know that Phoenix has played like the better team up to this point because they're more consistent. Am I wrong for thinking that the Zubac injury is actually going to help the Clippers long term because it helped them rediscover their small ball lineup?
Yeah, because Ayton had been dominating and Zubac really didn't have much for him. And now he's injured. And I don't know what the prospects are going to be for him coming back. I've got no injury update for him on Wednesday. Have you heard anything, Scott, with that knee?
Talking about Zubac or talking about Kawhi?
Talking about Zubac.
Zubac, it seems like it's a sprained MCL, so it kind of seems to be in the same boat as Kawhi. Truth is, even if he is healthy, do you even play him if you're the Clippers? Because you looked really good without him.
Yeah, I know. It was a completely different game as
And Boogie
Now,
Cousins was also solid as a center, so it wasn't like they missed his size or anything. Cousins did a pretty good job today.
yeah, he was fine, but I don't know that you're not really trying to make that case, are you?
No, but I'm just making an argument that if the one thing you think Zubac does is give you size, and he's a big body that you could throw in occasionally, so is Boogie Cousins. So even if Zubac is able to play, I don't know if you actually just would use him if he came back.
Well, they
especially
play,
if he's
but
limited.
they played a very different they played a very different offense without him in there, even with Boogie Cousins.
Yeah, and it worked.
So yeah, and it absolutely worked. And Cousins only played 11 minutes.
He had 15 points though.
Oh, I know. He was red hot from inside, but he's a guy that's not going to give you a ton of minutes. And you're right. This is a Clippers team that the Suns have pretty much geared everything around trying to stop the 3-point shooters. And I don't know how it's going to work out. The Clippers shot okay. They were 33.3%, so they made a third of their 3-pointers last night. But
Paul George took over the second half. It's basically what determined the game.
Well, and they couldn't miss from inside the 3-point line. They shot 55% from field goal range.
I believe they had 58 points in the paint. But the issue I actually have with this Suns team isn't even the defense. It's the offense in the series. You look at their scores after game one.
Yeah.
They can't score. Now, they had 120 in game one against the Clippers. I'm going to go in order. 103, 92, 84, 102. This team can't score against this Clippers defense. And the Clippers, when they go small, are still a really solid defensive team. I think that's the issue. I think the issue is that unless Booker goes for 40, I don't know if the Suns can score more than 105 points against this team.
Yeah, that's a great question because Ty Lue, I think, made a great adjustment after game one. It almost worked in game two. They couldn't quite get it home. But if you look at the shooting stats, they completely turned it around when they've chased and harassed those Suns 3-point shooters pretty much for the rest of the series. So, excuse me, that's a situation that I don't think is going to get any better for the Suns. I think this defense from the Clippers, I think they figured something out. I think they can win one of the next two, Scott.
You think Phoenix can? I'm not saying that they're guaranteed to lose any of the next two. I'm just saying I do think the Clippers are extremely live based on, A, how they played today, and B, the fact that Phoenix's offense has really looked like I don't want to say a disaster, but it's not been good for the last week and change in this series.
No, it hasn't. It's approaching disaster because they've averaged 102 points over their last 3 games. So it hasn't been good at all. They were.
I think it has to be less than that. I mean, in the last 3 games, do you mean the entire series?
Since the first game.
Okay, I was going to say because they have an 84 and a 92 in there, so it's probably a lot lower than 100.
No, they've
80, 92, 104, and 102.
Well, they put up. Well, okay, I was still counting the first game. Sorry,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's why after the first game, they're probably averaging less than 100 by a decent amount.
Yeah, they're at. Yeah, absolutely. So
the point is, it's going to be tough to win against this Clippers team if you're not scoring 100 on a given basis.
Yeah, it is, and it's not like the Clippers have been, just putting the screws to them. But
yeah, my question for you is: do you think the Suns right now should be about minus 500? And I think that you can talk about the actual series and how they're up 3-2, and you have to win one of the next 2, and how that sounds promising. I think the Clippers at plus 385 is still, I'd say, pretty meaty.
Yeah. Not
15-1 meaty, but it's still pretty good.
Not pre-nap meaty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a solid play. I think the Suns are going to have something for them. I think they're going to have an answer. We'll see.
If they're going to win, it's going to be a hideous game of basketball.
They've got to be able to take advantage of Zubac being out. They've got to be able to play in the middle. And that's what it comes down to. They've got to kind of redesign their game.
Yep.
All right. So that leaves us with tonight's game, Scott. And that's going to be the Bucks and the Hawks. Hawks trying to get even there at home. They did not look good in their last game.
Didn't the series seem a lot more interesting before the third quarter?
Yeah, it really did. It really did. Even hitting the fourth quarter with a 2-point lead, you thought.
I I kind of meant just the pre-Trae Young injury, but yes.
Well, that's true too. The last 37 seconds of the third quarter. So first of all, I guess we'll have to we'll cap, because at the time of this recording, we do not know the status of Trae Young. I'm guessing you're not going to know that until shortly before game time, much like they did with the Zubac injury.
I'm assuming that he's questionable, will play, but not play well.
Yep, that's kind of what, and I think that's the way the line is baked right now, Scott. It's not full on Trae Young not playing, which would be somewhere probably in the double digits, 10 or 11 points, but it's not 100% Trae Young is going to be great, because then the number would be somewhere in the 3 to 4 range. So they've kind of got it shaved in the middle there at 6.5 or 7, depending on where you get it. So first of all, you agree with that line with a hobbled Trae Young?
I think I kind of have to. I don't know where you think the bookmaker should put this, but Milwaukee was 4.5 in the last game. Now they're up to 7. If you're the books, you don't want to overreact and put Milwaukee at 9 because you know that people are going to slam Atlanta.
Right.
The truth is, it's extremely difficult to make lines, especially when you have injury concerns involving the best player on the other team, because you need a lineup, but you don't know where to put it. I'm assuming Trae Young's going to play, so I think you'll see a little bit of Atlanta money coming in late. Do I think he's going to play well? No, because he couldn't move for the entire fourth quarter.
Yeah, see, and that's what I think they're doing here, is I think they're trying to have the best.
They're hedging in a way.
Yes, they're absolutely hedging. What do you think this line goes to if Trae Young gets announced out for some reason, Scott? And I totally agree with you that he's going to play but not be 100%. But if for some reason the bruise doesn't heal, doesn't respond to treatment, he just can't go. The doctor says he can't go. Where does that line go?
I say 10.
10? Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right in the ballpark. 10 or 11.
I think it's going to be very tough to see more than 10 for a road favorite in the playoffs. I just don't see that happening, going to 11 and change, but I think 9.5, 10 would be where it goes. If Trae Young is announced active, does it matter what percent he is, or do you think money just comes in on Atlanta anyway?
I think a little bit of money comes in on Atlanta. I think if Trae Young's active, you're going to get a last-minute line somewhere in the 5 range, 5.5 maybe.
Now, when it comes to the actual play that I like in this spot, I love Atlanta team total under. I'm a big fan of that under. You're looking at the lines right now. Total's about 219. So you're looking at around
106.
113 to 107, 106.
Yeah, right in that neighborhood.
Covering 106.5, something like that. Yep. You look at Atlanta's last 2 games. The first game, Trae Young went nuts. So he had 48 points. They had 116. So I don't say you can toss that out.
I think we can agree he's not going to do that.
If Trae goes for 48, it's the greatest performance I've ever seen in my life. So that's not happening. They had 91 in game 2 and 102 in game 3. Trae still had 30 plus. He had 35. And when he got injured, they scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. So do I think Atlanta is going to get even over 100 if Trae Young is well below 100%? No. So I gotta like the team total under in the spot. When I'm not exact, I don't remember what you have as a premium, what you don't. But the point is that if Atlanta's going to keep this game close, we know Atlanta's defense has really had no answers against Milwaukee's offense. If the offense is going to struggle, it should be a pretty long home game for Atlanta because it's not going to be pretty.
You think there's a chance that the Milwaukee offense takes a step backwards?
No. I think that the question you have to ask is how injured is Giannis, because he's been a little bit hobbled for the last couple of games. But you look at the stat line, you wouldn't notice because Giannis had 33 and 11 on a 13 of 21 shooting. So he was great. Middleton scoring 38, I don't think is going to happen again.
Right, that's my point. So if you take away, let's say you take away 15 points from Middleton, where do you get those 15 points? You get 15 from Portis, and you had 38 from Middleton.
Portis the tortoise?
There's Portis the tortoise.
Portis the tortoise?
So there's 53. How many did they score in this one, Scott?
Well, that's the point, is that you can talk about how they might manufacture points or not. The way that I'm looking at it is that Milwaukee in the first game scored 113, second game 125, third game 113. So I've seen Atlanta try to stop this offense. They're not good at it. And Atlanta's offense is falling apart. So you're asking, where do I think the points are going to come from and how will they deal with Middleton not going for 38? I think Drew Holiday's a pretty safe answer. He had 30-plus in game 1. He was 2 for 11 in game 3. He was terrible. But I think you can divide that up a little more evenly. Holiday goes for 15. Middleton can go for 20-something. And then you kind of find a way to split that. But The point I'm trying to say is that Milwaukee has been pretty consistent in the series offensively. Atlanta's offense, especially with Trae Young being out, is at DEFCON 1. I have serious problems with this offense based on how good Milwaukee's defense has been in this series.
Who do they run that offense through if Trae Young is not able to go?
It's a great question. I don't know.
Huh?
You give Lou Williams 30-something minutes and just hope he goes nuts? I have no idea. Bogdanovich is still injured. Herter is good, but he can't run an offense through him. Collins was okay, but he got into foul trouble whenever he had to guard Giannis. They don't have many options. That's the problem that you have with Atlanta's offense. If Trae Young doesn't go nuclear, this team's dead to rights, especially in this series. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, with Bogdanovich not being able to shoot, I think that really hurts. I think that really hurts their chances of having any kind of shot with a diminished Trae.
You're not going to run offensive plays for Capella. I have no idea what you're going to do offensively besides hope Trae can give you 30 on one leg. I don't really know what you plan on doing. I think Trae might go for 30 in this game. I just think he might take 30-something shots. Like he might just be chucking it from the parking lot.
Yep. Totally agree. All right, we'll see what happens there. So your official plays are the Atlanta Hawks team total under 106-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I'll find the exact number right now.
How low would you play it?
I would play it, I'd say, down to 104.5.
Exactly the number I had in my head. All right.
I just look at Atlanta, and we talked about where the points might come from. I have no idea because if Trae isn't going to be scoring 30, and if this team doesn't go nuts from 3, is Gallinari your best offensive player?
He might be right now.
Of course, assuming that Young is whatever, but the total right now for the team total is 106.5 on FanDuel. I love that for the Hawks because I just don't see where the points are going to come from.
Okay. All right. Very solid. All right. Good enough. Hey, let's talk a little baseball, Scott.
I'm curious how much time we have to talk about it today.
Let's see. We've got about 5.5 minutes, 5 minutes or so, something like that.
About 3 more minutes than usual.
About 3 more minutes than usual, and it's a good thing because we've got an entire slate. We've got the full slate in action. So, give me some of your more interesting plays here, Scott. These odds are starting to catch up with the quality of the pitchers. We're starting to see some monster numbers here, like Brandon Woodruff tomorrow -200 against the Cubs. What are some other massive numbers out there? Oh, how about Robbie Ray -200?
Well, we already know the values automatically on Flexen, but I'm not taking Seattle tomorrow. Toronto's been really good for the last week and change. Then again, when you play Baltimore, you're supposed to look good every time you play. But looking at one game, I do like questioning how big some favorites are. You mentioned how Ray's -200 and how Woodruff's -200.
Yep.
Why is Jameson Taillon -150?
Because you like him?
I did. Not really anymore. I kind of sold whatever penny stock I had left on him. But I said I liked the Angels yesterday, even with Bundy on the mound. I mentioned the team total over. I mentioned the Angels +1.5. They won. The Yankees have lost 4 in a row. This team stinks. I'll take the Angels because why are the Yankees laying 150? It's pure Yankees tax. This team is not good.
No, and it's the key is to make that Yankees tax work for you.
Yeah, you got to fade them.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only thing you can do at that point.
But you want to talk about Heaney and his numbers this season? They're not that bad, especially for a guy that you think Heaney and you think, wow, this guy's probably awful. The ERA is not great at 4.72, but the WHIP's 1.27, and Taillon's numbers are worse. So you can make an argument the Angels have the better starting pitcher, and they're getting +135.
And by the way, the Angels were able to get it done yesterday with their bullpen.
Yeah.
Dylan Bundy got sick on the mound.
I don't know if they did it with their bullpen or the fact that the Yankees still can't hit, but the Yankees' lack of hitting helped the bullpen look pretty good.
Well, yeah, good point. So you're saying that it wasn't about Suarez and Cishek?
I'm saying that Cishek has always had a special place in my heart.
And why is that? Just the delivery?
I just always liked them.
Okay.
Because you had Cishek and Nishek, and I always confused them for about 10 years.
All right, fair enough. So you like the Angels getting a little money there?
At that price, yeah, there's no way the Yankees with Taillon should be laying -150. That's a joke.
I got to think that's right. I got to think that's exactly. I think there's good value there. Can I interest you in one of your old pals, Nick Pivetta? minus 190.
You think I'm going to fade Mad Brad Keller? What are you, nuts? Of course I'm going to fade Mad Brad Keller. He's terrible. He's bad Brad and he's Mad Brad because he's going to end up in AAA. He's awful. But Red Sox, looked like they were in bad shape yesterday. I said I liked Kansas City plus 1.5. They ended up losing by exactly 1. But we both know Keller's about to get shelled tomorrow. It's going to be ugly, and he's probably not going to go more than 4 innings. It's going to be really bad.
He hasn't been good his last 4 starts.
And now he's against one of the best offenses in the league. My prediction is pain.
Tell me what I'm missing here, Scott. Gausman and Buehler, 7.5 is the number.
I'm shocked it was at 7.5. I thought that you'd see under money.
Yeah.
I got to assume there's probably some wind blowing out because that's the only thing I could think of. But Buehler's been great. Gausman's been great. Even if you don't like the full game under, first 5 under, and just look at both pitchers throw gems.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to get that. Hopefully you can get that first 5 at 3.5.
I'm assuming it'll be 3.5 with maybe a little bit juice to the under. You have a wind about 6 miles per hour out to dead center. But it's tough to make contact with these guys, let alone hit home runs.
Yeah, I like the full game under. This is a game that ended 3-2 last night, and they didn't have 2 pitchers of this quality going. Gausman is he's just the man, Scott. I don't know any other way to say it. I don't hate the Giants in that spot, but I do really love any kind of under involved there. What else you got? You got one more quick one?
Not really. If I had to look at anything else, I'd probably consider taking the Nationals. Maybe the over on that one. I know it sounds like a hot take, but Ross has been so bad, and the Nationals have actually been hitting the ball a little bit better lately.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa, Hill's been good. Against he's been as good as he was last month or so. But I see runs in that game, especially with how Nationals bullpen can blow up at any moment.
Taking 8.5, even though it's at the National League Park, huh?
It's a hot take. I'll tell you that much.
All right, good enough. All right, Scott, well, it is time. It is time for that part of the show where you and I put our heads together, come up with our very best play of the day. That's what people ask us more than anything. If you had to put it all in the middle, if you had to bet it all on one game, what is your favorite game? And we deliver each and every day, Scott. It is time once again for Bet the Farm. All right, Scott.
Today, right?
What's that?
I believe it's me today, right?
It is you today, sir.
All right. So we're going to be looking at a baseball game between the Marlins and the Phillies, and with Rogers on the mound, you know where we're going. We're going with the Marlins' first 5. You look at the matchup here, Rogers taking on Velasquez. Velasquez has not been good. 4.74 ERA, 1.4 whip. His numbers are also a lot worse as a starter. But Rogers has a 2.08 ERA, 1.05 whip. Velasquez's last 2 starts have not been good. 8 1/3 innings, 8 runs, 7 earned, not pretty. And the Phillies have also been terrible. They have lost 6 of their last 8 games. We think the Marlins got a very good performance from Rogers. We think that the Phillies probably score 1 run or so going into the 6th. And we think the Marlins get at least 2 or 3 across against Velasquez. So we like the Marlins on the first 5.
There you go. Bet the Farm, Marlins first 5. There you have it, everybody. They take care of business against the Phillies. And that's going to do it for us. We thank you guys for stopping by. Don't forget to tell your friends. We do this each and every day. For me, for Scott, for all of us at Winners and Winers, thanks. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on Winners and Winers Radio.